that's been going around the Twitterverse with our
the bunnies. What a way to start an episode. And what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gaming Perspective Podcast. We are on episode 18, which I now realize is the title is in the bottom of the Hangout window. So we learn something new every day. So we'll get straight into the intros today. We have no guests today, but some special guests next week. Looking forward to that. So this week we have the editor for the Inner Circle Games Network, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hi, I'm kind of important. How's it going?
Kind of a big deal.
This guy gets followed by a couple of execs. All of a sudden, he's a big deal. I see how it is.
He's Ron Burgundy now.
He's Ron Burgundy now. Oh, God.
Please, no Panther Musk. Please, no Panther Musk.
60% of the time.
It's guaranteed to work all the time. It doesn't make sense.
What a start.
Oh, Lord. And also from the Inner Circle Games Network, Jared.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Let's get chatting.
All right. And also from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast and many other endeavors, which I cannot remember right now, Mr. Eric Jackson.
What's going on, everybody?
He's the only important one. Don't worry.
I've been thinking about changing up my intro and being inspired by King David and just come in with that energy. What do you guys think?
Hey, if I could give you guys Lord Cognito intros, I would, but I do not have that kind of time or creativity.
Don't take it personally. Lord Cognito is Lord Cognito. Only he can do that.
He's got talent, man.
Exactly.
The only one.
You got to be blessed with that introducing.
Yeah. No, that sounded just like it. That was great. That was good.
Oh man, I just remember when he invited me onto Iron Lords, we were chatting back and forth. He DM'd me. He's like, "Oh, you still good for the day?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "I just finished your intro." I don't think I've been so excited in my life is when I was like, "Oh, there's gonna be an intro." But anyways, so we're going to kick off this week's Game of the Week segment, and Sam is going to take it away today. So, Sam, what is your Game of the Week?
Okay, so my Game of the Week, it was really tempting to pick a couple of others, but I decided not to pick those because one of them I have a couple of comprehensive in-depth pieces coming up, and then the other one I actually have a review coming up next week. So I decided not to pick either of those. So my Game of the Week is actually Halo Wars 2.
Oh.
And it is going down. I will fight tooth, claw, nail, hair, whatever, kicking and screaming, saying that this is the most underrated game this gen, or at least one of the most underrated games. It has an incredibly comprehensive campaign with fantastic cinematics done by Blur. They're a motion capture CGI studio. They work with a lot of big Hollywood productions as well as in the video game industry. 343 sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just co-signing that, what they do, they're the best at it.
Oh yeah, they are the best, no question. And then Creative Assembly did a lot of the gameplay. Creative Assembly, for those who don't know, they're one of the most premier, revered RTS studios in the world. They work on Total War and things like that, Warhammer, stuff like that they've made. So them collaborating with 343 was only a natural mix, a natural pick, and it's fantastic. I'm on record as saying it's one of the best Halo campaigns in the last several years, and it's very learnable even if you're not extremely skilled at strategy games. And it's on Game Pass, so I highly recommend everyone go give it a shot. And if you like it, then pick up the expansion, which is somehow even better because it brings the flood back.
Yeah.
Unless anyone has questions, I don't really have anything else to go off of. But just, it's an extremely underrated game. Please go play it.
Yeah, I have it in my backlog ready to go.
I'm not gonna lie. I bought it when it first came out because I always love supporting spin-off games of some of my favorite franchises, and I literally played just the Blitz mode endlessly. And then I was like, a few weeks ago, I was like, I've never played the campaign.
Blitz is good. Blitz surprised me with how good it is. When you think of a strategy game, you don't think building a card deck. It's honestly kind of weird how they managed to make that work, but it works really well. Did you pick up the expansion, Nick?
I just picked up this expansion. Me and my co-op partner have been, and the one thing that I really loved is the campaign's full co-op, which is
yes, a lot of people don't know that.
I did not realize that. And it's really fun, and it's really cool how they divvy up, like how they do the co-op. Like, you know, if you spawn in with like a Spartan and like 3 sets of Marines, well, your friend gets to control the 3 groups of Marines, and you get control of the Spartan, and then you get to divvy up. You got to plan with your partner. We need to build this. We need to build this. You need to flank here with these, and it's endless fun. And the villain.
Oh, Atriox is so cool. I'm
honestly,
he's basically the Thanos of Halo. If we're
he's just a badass.
I'm sorry, that first cinematic where they're explaining like Atriox's backstory and everything else, I'm sitting there going, "This is better than any Halo that 343's made. What is going on?"
343 did make it, so but they wrote the story. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Is like we haven't had a villain in Halo that memorable.
No, that compelling. That
like
in your
backstory and so good. I co-sign people need to play that game. And even if you're not an RTS fan, I would call it a light RTS game in the fact that it's very straightforward. And definitely check out the tutorials too, because the tutorials, the basic and the advanced tutorial, actually give you a lot of tips that will help you learn it really, really fast. The learning curve is not that hard to play the base game, but if you want to play it online against people, you're going to need to dial that skill curve up a little, obviously. So yeah, fantastic pick, Sam. Definitely more people need to play Halo Wars 2 for sure.
Yep.
So we're going to dive into No Man's Sky.
He's excited.
Halo Wars 2, man.
It's infectious.
I'm being attacked by someone small and little.
Are you sure it's not Flood?
Depending. So, as a lot of people realize and have heard about, Hello Games, big update for No Man's Sky came out. The next update, which had been teased about 2 months ago. We saw some in-depth info on Inside Xbox about it, and Hello Games has been very active, and Sean Murray himself has been insanely active on social media, walking people through things, sharing tips on the new features and everything else. So this basically and essentially was a full game overhaul, and they changed the crafting system. They changed a bunch of stuff because a lot of people were complaining that played the original game that some of the stuff became quote unquote obsolete technology. Some of the crafting stuff they had became obsolete technology, and they had to craft new stuff using the materials from the old stuff and everything else because there was such a change in what they did with the update. But it's actually astonishing is how well received this update has been. Is the next update has been astronomically huge for No Man's Sky because it's become one of the top selling games on all consoles and PC. It's on the front of the Steam page in the top sellers. It's one of the top selling games on Xbox right now. And it's one of the top selling games on PS4. And people are genuinely like, with the amount of negative Steam reviews this game got, they're almost to a positive rating now. And the positive to negative ratio, I think, was something like 1,000 positive to like 17,000 negative originally.
Ouch.
So people are loving this because mainly what this update brought was everything that Sean Murray and Hello Games had said was going to be in this game. So it's the fully fleshed out game. Now, has anyone had an opportunity to play No Man's Sky next?
Yes.
Okay, Jared. We'll pick your brain because I know Sam and Eric and myself, my game share partner bought it today, but I haven't had a chance to actually play it. So, Jared, what are some of the big changes and like how are you enjoying the next update versus when the game launched?
You know, I've been trying really hard to get back to where I originally was on when I played it first on PC when it originally launched. I really enjoyed it then because I put in about 50 hours and then I kind of stopped because there really wasn't much to do. I mean, yeah, go farm resources, fly from planet to planet, learn languages and stuff like that. But, you know, in essence, it really just wasn't much. Now, there's just so much more to do. I mean, you got one of my favorite aspects is that you can now have your own fleet, your own frigate, and all that fun stuff. There's missions that you can do now. Now there isn't pillars of materials randomly on the planets that you go, oh, look, it's like a giant smokestack of materials I need. It's actual ground deposits now, which I like because it's a little bit more realistic. Just the variety of things that you can do. I'll reiterate again, I really, really enjoy having my own frigate and being able to build my own fleet, because that's one thing I really wanted to do in the original game. But now that I can, I go, holy crap, I can build this massive armada of either trade ships or exploring ships or, attack ships, and just kind of go dominate a galaxy. No, it doesn't matter if it's at war or not. I really like the base building and construction. That was a great addition. What surprised me the most when I first played this as well, though, was the farming aspect. Oh, oh boy, there goes a lot of my time wasted. And I'm really picky because I haven't settled down on a planet yet. Like, I've been playing, I've probably got about 20 hours in now, and I haven't settled in on a planet because I keep wanting to find that perfect planet I truly want to settle in on. But the nice thing about this game is when you build a base, you can actually take that base wherever you go, especially if it's a surface base.
Really?
Yeah, you can basically transfer that base to wherever you go. Not just that, but there's also teleporters that say you're like 15 galaxy systems away and you're kept your base on one planet, and you go, well, I want to go back to my base because I have a bunch of stuff there and there's things I want to do. Okay, build a teleporter, back you go. And you can travel back and forth. And there's other things where you can store your resources on your frigate. You can also build teleporters on your starship as well, to where you can have your starship on any place in the planet. You could be, who knows, however far. And you can transfer and use resources back and forth that are stored on your frigate and your starship, so you don't have to run out. You can collect and collect and collect until your exosuit is full. You transfer it to your starship, to your frigate, and you can actually use those resources when you need it, because, it's a hassle to carry around a couple stacks of oxygen or sodium nitrate just to refill your hazard protection or your oxygen tank, just so your life capacity doesn't drop. But it's just, there's a lot of little things that they tweaked around that really make the game a lot more appealing, that I definitely will say they should have had in the game in the first place. But I appreciate that they strived very hard to make the game what it is now. They took all the feedback, all the negativity, and they turned it into something really, really good. It's definitely worth your time, but you got to be careful, because if you end up enjoying the game, you can see your time just going by. Because it's just one of those games where you can't just sit down and finish the campaign or campaign story, whatever, in 30 hours, whatever. It's going to go on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours if you really, really want it to. What I also like about the game is that it doesn't entirely focus on the story. You have so many options of what you want to do off the bat. You can, follow the story that they implemented in the game, which was there in the first place. You can go straight survival mode, which restricts the resources and makes it much more difficult. You can do basically there's a creative mode in it as well, which allows you, free access to do anything and everything you want. And there's also like a free roam option, so you don't have to follow the set path in the galaxy or whatever. You can actually, in the galaxy map, you can choose any star in the map anywhere. You can go to it, because that's a system of planets. So you got trillions and trillions and trillions upon possibilities of galaxy combinations and planets. It's just one of the games where it's now so refined that it's an endless sandbox experience that will satisfy your sci-fi space needs. So
that's a fantastic in-depth explanation of that. Thanks for that, Jared.
No problem.
I'm just really as the super edgy 2015 outrage guy I was back when No Man's Sky came out, I was one of those people that endlessly berated Sean Murray for lying and everything else with this game. But I really have to give credit to Hello Games in the fact that they did not give up even under overwhelming criticism and definitely pressure as well financially for, like, the game was very successful at the gate, but after the first week, no one was buying that game. And they could have just left it. They could have done what the DayZ developers did, and they could have just left the project half finished.
Right.
And they could have abandoned it. But they hunkered down and they did updates. There was a couple of big updates before the next update, but they decided with the next update, because of how big it was and they had an opportunity to bring it to Xbox, it was a good idea. They marketed the heck out of it, and they did a fantastic job showing off that game. I'm kind of on the fence with No Man's Sky. I feel like it either A, should have been an early access title, or B, I know it was delayed prior and the internet had like the biggest meltdown about it being delayed. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if this game had come fresh out the gate now, the way it is right now, we would be talking game of the generation levels of excitement for it, because just the amount of people I see in my feed, whether they're PlayStation guys, Xbox guys, PC guys, everybody's loving this game. And it really hits a market that nobody's playing around with. Like, sci-fi games are kind of, especially open world sci-fi games, are like, there's like Elite Dangerous, which is more like based on the flying and everything else. And there's a few others, but with like games like Mass Effect not being around right now, rumors it might be back. This is a great game for people to get their space fix, as well as it's like someone said to me, it's like Elite Dangerous and Minecraft had a love child.
Right. Yeah, to an extent, definitely.
Yeah, to an extent. And I'm just really glad to see. I'm just glad to see it turn around, because that team is really, really small and they worked really, really hard.
Yes.
And I'm glad to see the turnaround. Eric, Sam, any thoughts on No Man's Sky next?
Yes, actually. I was one of the people, like, I was looking forward to No Man's Sky when they first started talking about it. I wanted to play it. And of course, I kind of pulled back once it kind of hit the streets and people were kind of giving their feedback. I was like, okay. And it was mostly because of just having other things that I was more interested in playing, right?
Right.
But I was never out there with the whole, the pitchforks of like they lied. I'm like, okay, some mistruths were told, but at the same time, I was trying to be understanding as to the situation that this developer's going through. Like, you're gonna put this game out, you have this grand idea, and through no fault of your own, the popular kid at school or popular guy at school wants to take you to the dance, right?
Yeah.
Being Sony at the time, and kind of pushing you out there. Hey, everybody, look at my date. Aren't they beautiful? They're going to do this amazing dance and this amazing thing. And you're kind of getting swept up in that, right?
Yeah.
So people are kind of like, well, Sean Murray lied to me. Sean Murray, to me, I've always kind of felt like had the idea for this game, wanted to deliver upon it, kind of got swept up in the hype.
Kind of got in over his head, basically.
Yeah. And I never felt like any of it was like malicious and I'm out to get your money.
Right.
And snake oil salesman you. It's like, I learned because I overshot, and I overshot and I underdelivered.
Yeah.
And then when they backed away, it was kind of crazy because everyone, again, with the pitchforks and the culture that we live in was, where are these sons of bitches? They just took our money and ran. And I'm like, again, I don't think they took the money and ran. I think they briefly addressed things, right? And then they kind of went underground.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's one of those things of, I can sit here all day and go back and forth with you on Twitter, or I can get to work with my team and really try to make good on what we said we want to do with this game and deliver the vision that we have for this game.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing I always said too is people are so quick to, to throw darts and throw barbs and to go in on you. But it's like, as somebody who does creative work, one of the hardest things to do is create something and give it up for somebody to critique it.
Right.
And that's me dealing with somebody one-on-one. And it's not easy dealing with a one-on-one client and having them critique your work. Imagine doing that for millions of people.
No kidding. The stress from that. Oh,
right.
Oh, man.
And you also have the responsibility of a team who's seeing this and being hit and probably wondering what the future of the development of the company is, and, you know, the stresses of all that. So I tweeted a few weeks ago when Sean Murray has been a little bit more vocal and kind of getting out there. You can definitely see a guy who's proud of the product that they're bringing forth now. I'm like, a little bit of hats off here, man. I mean, that's a huge deal. How many people can do that?
No kidding.
You know,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Is that all you wanted to share, Eric?
Yeah, that's all I want to say. Is like,
I don't really
happy.
have much to. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm just happy that people are being receptive and sidestepping all the nonsense of the back and forth of, you know, well, it's better on Xbox, or people saying, you know, hey, this game was out. Those are fun things to kind of throw around, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, if people are enjoying the game on both PlayStation, PC now, and Xbox, it's a wildly different game. That's all it's about.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, I've said some of this stuff before. I'll say it again. I'm not going to absolve him of guilt completely. Okay, right. I'm not, because at the end of the day, there is such a thing as personal responsibility, and I know. However, let me not get ahead of myself. Sorry here. However, with that being said, I absolutely believe that Sony PR had a role in this. Okay. Mm-hmm. I do. I think that they knew they had a big hit on their hands. They didn't want anything messing that hit up. They did not. No. Oh, you can't do this. No. Just tell them you can. Come on. You can patch it in later. Like, right. I don't know that for sure, but I have a very strong suspicion that's a lot of what went on behind the scenes. And I understand he got in over his head. And here's the thing. All the DLC they've done since has been free. Mm-hmm. Absolutely everything. They haven't tried to charge anybody. They haven't tried to pull the wool over gamers' eyes. But like, no, okay, let's take a step back. Maybe we're not going to communicate too much, but like, how do we fix this? That's what I've seen him and his team doing. The way he talked on Inside Xbox, because he's been on there twice now. He's been very humble. He's been explaining things like, hey, this is what we're doing here. But the thing is, even though he's humbled, you can still see that excitement in his eyes. You can still see that passion. You can still see him, you know, now that he's tweeting again, he's on Twitter active again. He's excited for what people are seeing in his game. And I said this a couple of times ago, and I'll say it again. Very few developers get a second chance to make a first impression. Right. Very few. Almost none. So I'm very happy for him and his team that they've been able to do this, that they've been able to relaunch, you know, full multi-platform. No chicanery, no shenanigans, no anything like that. Like, hey, this is what the game is. Don't overhype it, but please enjoy, please explore, and taking that realistic step back. Because there's another thing, by the way. There's no denying the hype on that thing got out of control. Okay, right. I'm sorry, but it absolutely did, the way some people were talking. And so that naturally hurt things as well. But now I think they have a very bright future to look forward to. I can't play it right now simply because, you know, A, wallet, and B, I'm bogged down. But if it ever hits Game Pass or goes on a sale, I will absolutely jump in and, you know, toy around, see what's going on there. So anyways, that's all I've got to say about it.
And that's mostly due to the extreme backlog. I was like, I can't lock in right now.
Yeah, it's it's no offense, but no, I can't. I'm just now making some progress in some other areas, and I have stuff I actually have to do for work. So
the struggle is real, man. The hashtag the struggle is real.
The struggle is very real. But the long and short of it is, I never, even from the jump, I never took Sean Murray as like the snake oil salesman. Like you said, it just seemed like a dude that got in over his head.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The guy who always will remind me of snake oil salesman will always be the head developer that was behind Fable.
Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, that's another conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone remembers the promises of Fable 1. Still a fantastic game, but insanely oversold. If anyone ever wants a history lesson, go look into that whole shenanigans.
Yeah, Peter was doing No Man's Sky before it ever existed.
Yeah, I'll wrap up and say, as a final thought on No Man's Sky, I think it's fantastic because Sean Murray, to me, when you see him, especially when you saw him talk on like Inside Xbox and everything else, this is a guy who came up with a game idea that was insanely unique and wanted to make it work, and did it with an astronomically small team, achieved a very, very huge vision, and managed to, even though it released early and everything else, and there's stuff missing, in 2 years they've managed to put in everything that he wanted into that game. And he said in an interview there before the next update launched that after the game launched, they were back in studio a day and a half later working on updates and everything else. They never stopped after that game launched. Because traditionally, after you ship a game, usually there's a couple of weeks, couple of months of a break where you relax, unwind. People have seen that with Sony Santa Monica. Cory Barlog is officially on vacation now. And they take a break after they make a game usually. But Sean Murray and Hello Games, they literally jumped in. The game released on either like a Tuesday or a Friday, and they were back in by either the Wednesday or the Thursday. And they were back in the studio working on things, and they endlessly worked on this. There was no break after each update. And they said they're not even taking a break now, and they've got bigger things planned going forward. They have another update that they want to have out this year, which is insane to me that they want to get another big update. But hey, more power to them. If they can bring more people into this game, people are revisiting this game that they already owned it. It's great. It's fantastic. I wish more games that bummed out or didn't live up to expectations had this opportunity, because I feel like some games could learn from this and could have tweaked what people didn't like about them and then become really, really good games.
Yeah, that's what that was kind of like my whole point on it was, just like sticking to it.
Yeah,
not giving up on your dreams, sticking to it, and continuing forward.
Yeah, and to continue this thought, we're going to talk a little bit about We Happy Few. We Happy Few launches in 6 days. Officially, it's coming out game preview, and it hits PS4 on the 10th as well. This game's been a game preview for about 3 years. I think it came out in 2015?
2016.
2016?
Game preview.
Okay, so it's been game preview for about 2 years now. And everyone remembers that initial trailer where it was like from the creators of BioShock, and it had this really cool, trippy world, and everyone was freaking out because this felt like a spiritual successor to BioShock, and then you got into it, and it was a survival game.
I was losing it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God!
Yeah, like I lost my marbles, and then I bought it on game preview, and I was like, it's a survival game.
Yeah.
No!
What?
Yeah, and being that it's like British at heart, I was like, "You taking the piss?"
like I was kind of disappointed because I was like, "You guys are super talented. These are the same developers that like worked on a game like BioShock Infinite. Like the world building was there, the storyline was there, and I was like, well, it didn't suck, but it was underwhelming is the word I'll use."
Mm-hmm.
And so it launches in the next few days, and Compulsion Games was on Inside Xbox in the last episode. Sam will correct me if I'm wrong. And Compulsion was talking about how they use community feedback to change how they developed that game, because initially they were making it more of like a survival style game, but they actually ended up writing and working in a full campaign with 3 separate characters that you're going to experience this game in. And that originally wasn't planned. It was due to the players' feedback from it entering early access and people being like, hey, it's kind of a cool survival game idea, but this would be a really cool story if you wanted to tell it. And the people with Compulsion went, okay, well, we can work with this. They got some voice acting done. They did a bunch of different things. They, brought a story together. And now, apparently, from what I've been reading, it's got about a 20 to maybe 30-hour campaign in there now.
20 to 30 hours, yep.
20 to 30-hour campaign with full fleshed out side quests, and it's looking like a really unique game. And all of this, and they quite openly said, all of this came to fruition because of community feedback.
You mean fruition?
Fruition.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. Sorry. The fruition.
This was like when I.
Festive,
This was like when I used to live stream. I couldn't read illegible at one point.
I'm sorry. I really am.
Okay. Well, my grade 6 education's showing.
Let you down on that one. Just saying. I'm gonna
need a next update to recover from that.
Hey, Nick, a good friend will correct you to set you on the right path, man. Not leave you out there.
Hey, Sam edits my pieces, so he's used to this. That shoulder shrug increases my confidence. So, do you guys think with games like We Happy Few, especially when it comes to game preview games, because we're seeing more of them on the console side of things, it's always been a thing on PC side, but do you think with game preview games that community feedback is going to start giving us better games in the long run, or do you think that good games could get ruined by community feedback?
Okay.
That's a good question.
That's not where I thought you were going with that.
It depends on, honestly, who is giving the feedback, because we all know there's people out there who just would love to shit on a game just because. Now, if you put it in the hands of people who are really, honestly, truly willing to give proper feedback and criticism to help actually improve the game, by all means, I think it would be very, very beneficial, but it really depends on who you give it to. Now, game preview is there kind of to do that exact same thing for, feedback and all that fun stuff. But I almost feel like with some games you shouldn't have to pay a price for it. Like, I feel there should be a certain exclusive group, kind of like the insider rings that we have for Xbox preview rings, to where, okay, you guys get a select access to these games, not like an alpha or beta or something like that, but a little bit more extensive, to where you're working directly with the developers from home, and constantly, like, your job is to play the game and give feedback sort of thing for it. But like, yeah, just to reiterate, it really just depends on the people that are doing it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the kind of people you have interacting and doing, like, giving you feedback is a huge part of it. And people don't seem to understand, if you go, what you see on Twitter when people give feedback to games versus if you go onto a developer's actual forum is very, very different in the kind of posts you'll see. Like, everyone knows, we'll use Sea of Thieves as an example, because that's another game that I feel is slowly turning its sails in the right direction. And
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I feel like they're slowly adjusting to what the player base wanted, but I used to peruse the Sea of Thieves forums, and like on Twitter, it's a pile of toxic behavior. It's garbage. It's trash. People won't tell you why it's garbage or trash, but it's garbage or trash. You go onto a forum, it's a bunch of people that really care about this game, and they're like, I want to love this game, but there's things missing. Can you give us these features? And giving these developers these honest feedback. A perfect example is I actually dodged a bullet. Vigor, which is that Xbox exclusive battle royale game that is in game preview. It's got squads, but you can't invite your friends.
What?
Yeah. So it's a battle royale game that has a squad mode, but you can't invite or play with your friends.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's why I play PUBG, to play with 3 random guys. But obviously that's an oversight on the developers. I don't know how you would miss that.
Insert Ryan Reynolds gift, but why?
Yeah. But I think well-written feedback to a developer is worth more than people give it credit for. And if I really care about a game, I am one of those angry people that will send emails. I will send emails and be like, hey, I really love your game, but this is something I'd like to see change. Does it ever happen? sometimes. But I'd rather give developers that kind of constructive feedback because I don't want to hate a game. If I play a game, I'll use Sea of Thieves as an example. I was super hyped for that game. And when I played it, wasn't really my cup of tea. Wasn't kind of what I was expecting. It wasn't that Rare didn't deliver on what they said they deliver. I had a different vision in my head of how I wanted the game to be. And they're slowly bringing it in. I think the latest update where they added skeleton ships, that's a huge thing for me that I would enjoy. And I think I'm going to dive back in the next week or two, because my biggest complaint with the game is there felt like there was too many lulls in the action where I'd be like, I want to blow somebody up, but I can't find anybody. And my friends would be like, well, we have to go collect these chickens from the island. I'm like, I don't want to collect chickens.
Oh, no, so you're doing the Jerry Seinfeld. Well, you got to do this, but I don't want to do this.
I don't want to be a pirate.
I want to wear a puppy shirt. Sorry, but that was too perfect.
No.
Man, I want to get him back into Sea of Thieves now. Like, as someone, I like playing solo. I do. I'm a really big solo guy, but at the same time, there's not a lot to do solo. I mean, like, I burnt myself out really badly during the beta and alpha, and I can't wait until there's like more of an incentive to feel, or more of a sense of security with your ship, so you know you can still go out, especially during this current DLC of the Cursed Sails, and know you're not going to get synced right off the bat. You're not going to get ganged up by 2 giant cursed galleons and be sunk right then and there. And you go, well, that's it for me tonight. That was 15 minutes of gameplay. I'm going to go play something else. But yeah. That's currently really my only gripe with the game right now. But I like the progress that they're putting into it, and it's all because of community feedback. That's right. All it's been. And it's great because you're really listening to the fans and what they want, and you're giving them exactly what they want, but you're also not taking a long time to do that too. You're giving it to them very, very quickly, not just that it's very consistent too. And I think that's really been a key factor into them retaining a player base, not just that, but also growing it, because you're showing progress with the game and showing that, hey, we're listening to you guys. Keep feeding us that feedback, and we'll keep giving you what you want.
Right, absolutely. And I think they're on the right path as well with the events that they've been doing. The Hungering Deep was really, really cool. And now, that's altered the world forever. So even though that campaign isn't there, like the Megalodons and the new instruments and all that, that's permanently there. Now Cursed Sails is going on. It's super difficult, but it's super fun. And the skeleton ships rising up like the Flying Dutchman, that's going to be in the world forever, even after the campaign is gone. And Forsaken Shores is going to open up the map more. Evidently it's working as well, because it's like, I know, how do I want to put this? I need to be careful how I say this. People like to dunk on Sea of Thieves on Twitter, but it's grown by 1 million players since E3, so evidently they're doing something right. Like, I don't know, evidently it is appealing to somebody to get those kinds of numbers, that kind of growth that quickly,
Yeah.
But
I just have to point out the fact that Sam's brother's standing in the background with a piece of paper over his face, censoring himself.
PlayStation Bros says, Sam, let me brush your hair.
Oh God. I'll give one last point on community feedback. A perfect example is a friend of mine. He doesn't play a lot of video games, but he's a super, super hardcore State of Decay player, which weird. All he plays is Left 4 Dead, State of Decay. Zombie games are like his thing. That's all he plays.
That's his jam, huh?
Yeah. So with State of Decay 1, he loved it. He's 1,000%. He's got all the achievements, and I think he's got 1,000 hours in the game. Like, it's astronomical. So when State of Decay 2 came out, I played it for the first time. I'd never played State of Decay before. It's pretty good. And I was like, there's some things they're missing. And he's like, no, man. He's like, this is like the dream game. He's like, this is everything we wanted in a sequel. He's like, they fixed so many things that were wrong in the first game. He's like, it's such a big change. I'm like, I don't know. I never played the first one. But like he was telling me, like they've listened to this feedback that the players had, because State of Decay has this really weird fan base where it's not like huge or astronomically sized, but they are like the most dedicated zombie fan base I've ever seen. Just in the fact that they're always giving feedback. Like the State of Decay forums are insane. And some of the things that the community wants is like they want events, they want this, they want to do that, and they're giving all this feedback, and it's fantastic. I can't wait to see what the developers do because, oh God, no, Undead Labs has done a fantastic job at listening to player feedback. Oh God, what's the one?
Brain fart.
Yeah, my brain just shut down. But they've done a great job at adding things that players want. I think it's a good thing. I've yet to see a game that went south because of player feedback.
Right.
Can anyone think of a game that went bad because players changed it too much from the original goal of the game?
I can't think of a circumstance like that, but I can think of like a lot of tone deaf. People screaming and trying to give feedback. They're like, now we're good.
I feel like there actually is a very good example, but it's not coming to mind immediately. There was one though. I guess it'll come to me later.
I know Call of Duty is really bad for listening to player feedback. We should add this. Okay, we'll add that. Oh, this is overpowered. Well, this is what you guys wanted. This is what you got.
Just deal with it. Gotta go for now, boy.
All right.
No, because I mean, we could say like Ubi's pretty good at like listening to player feedback, and their games will start one way 1 year, and then the next year it's like people are like, oh, this game's terrible, and then the next year it's like a game of the year contender a year later.
Ubisoft games, I'm just coming to the conclusion, if you want to enjoy them, buy them when they're $30 6 months after launch, and they're always amazing.
Right.
Like I've got so much respect with how much Ubisoft has turned. Like if you look at 2014 Ubisoft versus what the Ubisoft we have now, even though they didn't give me a Splinter Cell game, they still have some of my respect. In the fact that they've focused down, and when they release a game, they don't drop it. They don't drop the support. For Honor's still supported. Rainbow Six Siege is one of it was in the top 20 best-selling games this month on NPD.
Oh, I'll tell you, Ubisoft took to heart when people started comparing them to EA. Remember at one point, like they were getting dumped on. And they were like, wait.
They put a video out. They put a video out on how they were like offended, and they took it very seriously. And they're like, no, we're going to give Assassin's Creed a year off. We're going back to our roots here. It's like they take their craft seriously. Absolutely.
Right.
They pulled a hold my beer moment. Watch this, guys.
Yeah,
boom.
Because you used to be able to like set your watch to them, like dropping a game. Like, oh, it's Ubi. It's all good. I know it's going to be on point, right?
Yeah.
And then we got Unity, and it seemed like that was the breaking point.
Yep. Because they had Unity, then they had The Division, and then they had there's another one too. Oh, The Crew came around that time too, and that was really mediocre. I feel like I'm missing one.
Yeah, like I just said in the chat, like
Rainbow Six Siege, which they turned that thing around.
Yeah. Right, and that's the thing, is like they have some of the biggest multiplayer games now. Like Rainbow Six Siege is one of the largest FPS competitive games now. It's mind-blowing. They sold out like a 75,000 person stadium in Montreal for the
massive
season one
massive esports
competitive
now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like the skill curve on the game's astronomical.
You got to be good. Like it's what I played a lot with my old online group of friends way back when it first launched. We really got into it, and man, you really got to have that teamwork and communication down. It's insane. I mean, I know there's a lot of games out there like Overwatch and like even PUBG and all the fun stuff with their esports games, but Rainbow Six Siege really refines the tactical aspect of the game or of esports. Not just that, but the amount of types of classes and players that you're going to be able to play, because they went over 100 different types 100. That's insane. They're not even halfway there yet.
Nope.
There's like the longevity that they want to give the game and the support that they want to continue giving the game is just mind-boggling. And they've been saying that since the start. But, the consistency that they've been showing with not just Rainbow Six Siege, but, of course, with all the more recent games that they've launched recently, like Wildlands and other ones. I can't even remember. I can't remember even half of them. But
Origins was a huge comeback for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Now
people are kind of afraid that, like with Odyssey, they may be going back to like oversaturating, but we'll see. Because
I'm in that camp, honestly. I am too. Okay with Assassin's Creed going back to a biannual, especially because they've got Watch Dogs to throw in there as well. Watch Dogs is still fairly new, and what's that other franchise? Splinter Cell. Sorry about that. Something caught my throat. It was making me cry. But anyways, the point is they have other stuff. So I'm a little apprehensive of them going back to Assassin's Creed that quickly. But then again, Ubisoft has like 25 studios worldwide. They have like 1,500 people every game. So if they can turn out an Assassin's Creed game each year and it's super high quality, okay. All right, then go figure. It is what it is.
I will say, though, Assassin's Creed Origins really kind of put my faith back into Ubisoft. Not just that, but not just because it had a bit of a different feel to it and different gameplay mechanics, but overall, it didn't feel like a classic Assassin's Creed game, but it felt like a really good RPG game that I've kind of been wanting in Assassin's Creed. Like, yeah, cool. It was cool to play an assassin, but even up until Unity and Revelations, it was very repetitive. Each game was very, very repetitive. It was not like they added somewhat new things, somewhat new traversal systems, all that fun stuff. But Origins was truly, to me, the next defining step in the series, and I'm hoping. To me, it shows. And I really hope it's going to stay this way, that they will not go back to the repetitive crap that they were really renowned for in the original games, because that really is a big turnoff for me. I really want to just go out and experience the game for what it is, not go collecting 100 freaking feathers or flags.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm like a huge fan of Assassin's Creed. I am, admittedly, I haven't put much time into Origins, but I was playing those games every time one dropped, and then I got the fatigue, and I didn't even play Unity. I saw how much of a mess it was, but by then, after Assassin's Creed 3, I was already fatigued.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, so I'm willing to kind of like give them the benefit of the doubt with Odyssey, because they're kind of following up. They supported Origins, they gave it DLC, so they're going to move in, and they're completely changing the dynamic, and they're going back to the two protagonists like they did with Syndicate. Syndicate actually brought me back, but I think a lot of people ignore Syndicate because of the bad taste from Unity, but Syndicate is a really good game, right?
Right.
Now, I think what would be awesome is after Odyssey drops, they say, okay, we're going back, and we're going to take that year, and we're going to introduce a completely new, maybe not necessarily a gameplay loop, but a new region, a new area, because what they started doing, it wasn't a big stretch for them to go from Assassin's Creed 3 to Black Flag, ship combat.
No, definitely not.
And it's sort of like that thing. Then it wasn't like really a big stretch for them to go from, Black Flag to doing with like Unity in Paris or whatever, right? They kind of just started using those same assets like over and over again, and kind of following that track. So it would be really cool. You do Origins, you do Odyssey, and then you pull back for a year, come back with a completely different region, new protagonists. And talking about feedback, it'll be interesting if they finally listen to most fans and drop the Animus Tech stuff. Most fans are telling them
there's no point. No one cares anymore.
Right, just give us the history. Like, we don't need that anymore.
It's been dragging on with that stupid Animus stuff for each game up until Origins, and you go, what is the point? Because it's not leading up to anything. It's just kind of linking.
Right. It could have been done with Destiny.
There was no point. No point. Like, it was. You can argue that it wasn't even that great to begin with, but at least it was a mystery. You know what I'm saying? At least there was. They were keeping us hooked. Oh, what's going on? Is this a double agent? Whoever it was, the love interest ended up being like a quadruple agent or something. It's like, okay, that was cool, but it's done. It's played out at this point. Just make these games the historical games.
It's very convoluted and diluted as well. Like, you really can't make sense a lot of it. Like, if you really, really pay attention, you might be able to figure something out. But in the end, you go,
And
what is this all about in the first place?
yeah, and I tell you what, given the option, because they're kind of like, well, you don't really need to return to the Animus unless you really want to. No one did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you kind of got pulled out for a story segment, that was one thing, but no one willingly jumped out of the game to go into the back to the modern world or whatever.
No.
So it's like pointless. There's no need.
Why?
So
Yeah, we'll see. We will see what's happening there. I feel like once Odyssey drops and we give it a month or two, we'll be having a very meaningful conversation about the future of Assassin's Creed. But for now, we just got to wait and see.
Pretty much. And I want to throw something out before we move on. I don't want to glance over this because I think this is an interesting thing. Juan mentioned the Master Chief Collection.
Yes.
Being like the next big turnaround. And I know Cog has been teasing, I can tell he's frothing at the mouth to talk about the things that are going on being in the Insider program. So you guys think that could be like the next big story as far as them fixing the online?
Absolutely.
Bringing the 4K update and the whole nine?
Absolutely, especially when you consider it'll be on Game Pass as well. And so far, Game Pass seems to be like the touch of gold. Everything it helps gets boosted, so something like that. And the fact that as well, if you think about it, it lets 343 take their sweet time on Halo Infinite. As well, because it's like, okay, if we've got this, like, hey, now you can play through all the games in 4K 60, we're going to recommit, we'll add in all these other new modes. Maybe they even throw in Reach in there. I
was just about to say,
Reach in 4K. I mean, come on, it's like
the goodwill cherry on, not to cut you off, but the goodwill cherry on top would be like, we know we've talked about it, we know you've asked about it, we teased that it wasn't going to happen, but here it is.
The fact is, I know before their argument was, well, it's about the Master Chief. Yeah, well, Halo 3 ODST is in there, so
exactly. And dang it, they're Spartans, throw them in.
Right, exactly. Let people play through all those games in 4K 60 on their X, have that vibrant multiplayer, and that'll hold everyone over because it's like, hey, are you a fan of classic Halo? Here you go. Are you a fan of newer Halo? Here you go. 5 is in Game Pass as well. You're covered until we get Infinite out. I think if they play their cards right, I think it could be a huge turnaround for them. And I think also it's very praiseworthy that even years later, they're recommitting on terms of, okay, we are going to fix this thing. We are going to deliver what you, the fans, not only what you wanted, but what you deserved.
It looks good, too, from the screenshots I've been seeing. Like,
from the screenshots that they've made through NDA, it looks good.
Let me tell you, if they bring Reach back, no one wants to catch these hands in SWAT, okay?
Oh, dude. I was highly ranked in my time. Let's
bring it.
I think Nick wants that smoke.
We gonna get that smoke back when I used to care about leaderboards and used to get super sweaty with it. When Halo Reach first came out, me and my two friends, Damien and Darius, we were top 50 in SWAT for 4 weeks after launch. And I think I still have, because I used to use a Hodgepodge HD game recorder to record screenshots. I'm pretty sure I still have some of the screenshots from Halo Reach, and there was 50-3 games where it was it was over in 3 minutes. That game mode was fantastic. I will always.
You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say this. If I was Microsoft, when it comes to Master Chief Collection, I would be playing that thing up from a nostalgia factor.
Oh, yeah.
All the way through, like going into Infinite, but I would be playing that up because there's people out there who remember playing Halo. They may have stepped away from gaming or whatever, but I would be playing that up and doing the double-edged sword between that and Game Pass, right? All the Halo games you remember in glorious 4K included in Game Pass, and I would honestly play that up through Xbox Live. Maybe play up the tournament aspect of it. I would even go to an ad campaign on that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And look, the fact that Juan brought this up in the chat, they've got that new Xbox Game Pass Twitter account.
So good.
Right.
Stuff like that. So, yeah.
I would be playing all of that up, man. I'd be playing all that up. I would have a Master Chief Collection promo in movie theaters.
Oh, yeah.
Before some of the big Marvel movies or the big whatever's hitting. And, I tell you, I would be playing that up, man, because you have a nostalgia factor there that can kind of bring back, that good feeling around Halo.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I miss the days, like I don't have cable anymore, but I miss the days of going into movie theaters and seeing game trailers all the time. I miss that. Like
you
back
know what's weird enough? The most recent one I saw was actually Sea of Thieves.
Really?
Sea of Thieves that did play in front of a couple of movies. Yeah, it played before Black Panther and before Infinity War.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep. Yeah.
Impressive. See, I remember the last one I saw was when I went and saw the Tomb Raider movie. They actually had the Tomb Raider trailer in front of that.
I remember
that makes sense.
Sony does a lot with that, man. I remember like Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4, yeah, they did. I was shocked they didn't have one for God of War. I was really surprised about that, but
yeah, they were throwing that into like sporting events and everything.
Yeah, right. That's why it was kind of odd. Not like it needed it, but nonetheless.
No, it's right, man. It's
it kind of sold itself too.
Yeah,
so good. I need New Game Plus. I need New Game Plus.
Yeah. Speaking of that, where is New Game Plus?
I don't know.
To be railless again, but
in Corey Barlog's back pocket on vacation.
Yeah.
He borrowed Phil Spencer's thumb drive from Gamescom. All right, moving right along because we gotta keep going here. This is good talk here. I do not take any joy in this, I promise. So Quantic Dreams lost their lawsuit. Quantic Dreams was being sued by former employees in regards to treatment and basically how the employees were treated, and some toxic behavior was being allowed by the management. Well, the employee that sued Quantic Dreams won the lawsuit in a landslide. And it wrapped up really quickly, which means that basically Quantic Dreams didn't have a leg to stand on, which doesn't bode well for their lawsuit against the newspaper that reported on them having toxicity issues within their studio. So before I get the panel's feedback on this, it just sucks to suck, David Cage.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
Yeah. See, this is the thing is like I want to give congratulations to Quantic Dreams because Detroit reached 1.5 million players, not copies sold. We're doing player ratios on single player games now, which is confusing. But congrats to the studio for finding success with that game. I just wish there was some way they could just like cut David Cage out, take him out of the studio, and let all the talented people be there.
Right. You need to hire the Papa John CEO. He's like, you're out, dude.
Eric, no.
No, not the spokesman guy. I'm talking about the guy that actually runs the.
Oh, okay.
He cut that off quick. He was like, you're out. You don't even exist anymore, bro. That's how you basically did it.
Yeah, but I will always say this when it comes to Quantic Dreams, there are some very, very talented developers behind that studio that do really great work behind games like Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Detroit. I will not say anything bad about those games in the aspects of them being games, but in regards to David Cage as a person, I hope he gets his pants sued right into the ground. I hope we never hear from him again. I hope he's so weighed down by lawsuits from former employees that he never resurfaces again, personally. Because he's heavy-handed. He has proven multiple times that he's abusive to his employees. It's been an issue in every game he's ever made. I think me and Sam looked into this one game. Every game he makes, there's something that goes horribly wrong in the development planning stage, whether it's an employee issue. Ellen Page is on record as saying he's one of the creepiest guys she's ever had the displeasure of working with, which is yikes. Right. There's that whole using the shower scene without her permission. There's that whole part in Detroit where you can undress an 8-year-old girl. There's just so much wrong with that man that I own Detroit. I haven't played it yet. I bought it used because I would not support them directly. Because people always say you can support the developer. You should support the people making the game, even if the one main developer is toxic or not necessarily a good person or wherever. You need to support the people that work under him. No, those people will find jobs again. Those people will land on their feet.
Microsoft is hiring with that to their studios.
I'm not even touching that. But I don't want to be encouraging bad management to make games. For me personally, I don't want to encourage toxicity, because if something comes out, I'm not one of these people that when people were sitting there hounding Naughty Dog for I cannot remember the gentleman's name that came out about sexual harassment. And there's quite a few people that are like, well, I'd get sexually harassed to play The Last of Us Part 2 early. No. No one's life is worth ruining for a video game. Period.
No.
End of story. That's my line. I will never support David Cage. I will never support how he treats his employees. And I'm glad and I am happy that the person that had this lawsuit got some form of retribution in return for whatever work they had to put in and whatever they had to put up with. Now, the rest of the panel can put their input in. I have to go deal with my kids who I think are wrestling in the bedroom.
Well then,
Even
Nick?
Stone Cold Stunners.
Jared?
I got one statement. That's it. Just one statement. It's this. It's this. Karma. I enjoyed the game, but honestly, it's pretty disgusting. He shouldn't have done anything like that in the first place. I don't got much to say, honestly, other than karma is coming. It's already happening. Good luck on your future games, because honestly, I highly doubt any more are going to happen at this point. If they are, they're going to be under new leadership, and it's not ever going to be a David Cage game again.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say.
Sam?
It sucks. It sucks big time. It's ugly. But like I said, I mean, look, this is my shocked face. This is not the first time something has come out. This is not the second time. This is not the third time. This is just the latest in a long pile. And I get that this industry is brutal. I understand. I have talked to devs who, their heartfelt pleas. Some of them, who are just like, they're desperate trying to make their games. They're desperate trying to support their families. I've talked to developers who have fled countries where enforcers of communist regimes were hunting them down and would have killed them if they found them. Okay, they had to flee. Yeah. I have talked to developers who have been threatened with rape or death threats just because they happen to have a pair of tits. Okay, I'm sorry, but just to put it on honestly. So I get that this is not a friendly industry. There's a lot of ugliness to it. We should not. We have a responsibility to not enforce or aid in any way, shape, or form any kind of behavior that harms these employees. I understand they might lose their jobs, but you know what? There are other video game studios there. Don't Nod Entertainment is on the rise because they just released Vampire. They're just a few blocks over. Arcane Leon, one of Bethesda's 2 Arcane studios, is hiring right now since the release of Prey Mooncrash. So it's not like they have nowhere to go. And I hope that they can find better jobs. I hope people can realize, look, we don't need to put up with this. And even though it's borderline impossible, I hope that someday that they can remove David Cage from the whole thing. And that they, the employees could take control somehow. Because at this point, I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah. At this point, there's really not much we can do other than just sit back and see the results of what happened with the lawsuit, sort of thing. And not just that, but hopefully the employees will start standing up and like, you know what, this is not acceptable, and start calling out people who do that sort of thing, because it needs to happen. It's got to happen.
Right. Yeah, and I'll just say this on it, because we did have like a little bit of a talk about it in the DM, not a major one, and it's kind of like you guys have already said, like David Cage and his studio head, they both need to go. Like, there's no shit runs downhill. You guys are at the top, and if you're allowing, even if you're sitting there saying, well, we didn't take part in it, or we didn't do whatever, you're still allowing whatever's going on here. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Yeah.
So that needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form.
I agree.
Sorry, not sure what just happened there. I'm sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
That's okay, bud.
My last little thought.
Well, did Eric get to go? I'm sorry, but I will interrupt you.
Eric chimed in his bit while you disappeared.
Okay.
His 50 cent.
No, but I was just gonna say it's one of those things. Like, I kind of look at it from like two different ways. Like, I think, yeah, David Cage is a scumbag of epic proportions. Definitely needs to go. Definitely shouldn't be supported in that vein. But it's almost, I kind of look at it like, I'm not gonna fault, because like Nick, you said you own the game. I own the game. I haven't played it yet. It's a weird feeling. It's sort of like, I don't want to support that scumbag, but at the same time, it's like a lot of people went through a lot of bullshit to make this game happen.
Mm-hmm.
And their art almost deserves to be seen, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to support the scumbag. It's like, it's a really weird, like.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It's an ugly situation. I get it.
Yeah, it's like a really weird
story.
story.
That's why I do the workaround. It's not really a workaround. That's why I'll buy it used, because someone already bought that game. They got their sale, and then I'll buy it used from a pawn shop or a GameStop, and the developer won't see a penny from that sale.
Right. But I said to you guys in the DM too, I said, like, going forward, no. Like you said, if you don't want to be in these conditions, and like you guys said, there are other jobs to be found. You can get out there. Don't stay there for that.
No, don't put up. Don't feel like you have to put up with it. The Quiet Dream is not the only developer in France.
Right. So yeah, I mean, no. I mean, like I said, I bought Detroit. They got the money from that. But going forward, no. I'm not. There's no storm on that aspect. Detroit is a weird storm going on inside me, but
right.
Forward, at this point, it's like, yeah.
I hear you, because I'm in the same place with playing Detroit, because I'd like to play it and I would like to write about it, but yeah, it makes you feel weird. And
yeah, there's definitely conflict now for sure, and I don't blame you guys at all. I enjoyed it, and definitely was, I guess, my first David Cage game to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even after all this stuff, I go.
But I want to caution. I'm sorry, Jared. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, bro.
That's okay. I just want to just say, like, I'm glad I played it, but at the same time, I kind of want to try and get a refund now for that game, because I don't really want to have anything owned or done by David Cage in my library anymore, just because of this.
Mm-hmm. And that's completely fair. I kind of want to caution, like, to people. When it comes to this kind of thing, there definitely should be an outcry from gamers that it won't be accepted. There should be an outcry from developers and people in the industry that it should not be accepted. But from the fan base who are using it for like console war and like trying to push the agenda of scumbaggery from corporations or whatever case may be. Yeah. What you have to do, you have to be very careful how many stones you want to throw. Because it could very much turn around to where one of your favorite developers that you love to death just happens to, and then you're going to be caught with a very interesting decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can only throw many stones before a rock slide happens.
Right. End of the day, it's a human issue. It's not a console war issue.
Yeah.
Take it from that aspect of it. And if you're going to scream that loud, you got to keep that same energy if it happens to somebody who's one of your favorite, because there are people out there who Quantic Dreams are their favorite developer.
Right.
Their favorite type of game. It may not be for everybody, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it would come down to, like, it doesn't matter if it came out tomorrow that Brendan Green or PlayerUnknown was a scumbag and he mistreated his employees and everything else. I would consciously make an effort to not support PUBG anymore.
Right.
I agree. I would be the same way. I wouldn't touch the game ever again.
Oh, don't let this happen in Ninja Theory. Please don't let this happen in Ninja Theory.
I'm cautious about saying things like this, but I have trouble believing. Like, again, I'll emphasize this: this was not a one-off or a two-off or a three-off with Quantic Dream. There has been a pattern. For some.
Exactly.
So, I think that is the key that people need to focus on here. Is like, this was not news, really.
Right.
At the end of the day,
I think it's confirmation, but I think what's happened is it came to light in a way because I mean we're in this culture now where people aren't putting up with this anymore. We're in the Me Too thing,
right?
And it's just not. Someone's not happy.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and people are not putting up with it, so it's out there. And honestly, like you said, there's a paper trail of it. There's a history of it. If I was David Cage, I would have fallen on the humility sword, and owned up to it, not gone through this lawsuit, not gone through this, pointing fingers in other directions, because that makes you look like a bigger scumbag.
Mm-hmm. Certainly not suing the outlets that posted the information.
They're just posting what they got. They're not making it up.
Yeah, it's like
it's not slander.
It's pretty legit.
Right.
If they lost the court case.
Yeah.
Now
you look like a real turd.
It's there. The facts are there. Everything's plain and obvious and in plain sight. If you're just still willing to not look at it, ignore the facts, like, no, he's fine, blah, blah, blah. All right. You're pretty dumb.
Right.
Irrelevant. Yeah. You're irrelevant. Yep.
I think you're going to see a change with Quantic Dreams. Everybody knows that everyone seems to forget they're in hot water right now with the French government because they receive funding for making games in France. And the government wants to pull that funding, as well as the fact that Detroit was their last published, I believe, I was reading on Reset Area, it was their last game on their publishing deal with Sony.
Right. So, and I'll be honest, like, not to cut you off, Nick, but I'm pretty sure we've seen the last. To be fair, I don't think we're going to see another PlayStation deal.
No, it's with how PlayStation dealt with the whole Naughty Dog situation. I don't think they want to sign up for another situation. I don't think many publishers are going to want to sign up for another situation.
Well, if anyone does, that's kind of. I can see them signing up with Quantic Dreams only if David Cage isn't there and if things have changed. Until that happens, no one's going to want to dirty their hands with the reputation that Quantic Dreams currently has. So until that happens, nothing's going to happen.
I agree.
Are they publicly owned?
Good question. I'm not sure.
No. Quantic Dream is a privately held company.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to our last topic. Move right along here. So... and just to clarify, this is not Dunk on Sony episode. This is just happens to be that there's a couple of negative pieces that showed up this week that have been the trending headline. I just feel like I have to throw this out there because we've got Quantic Dreams, then we've got GT Sport right under it.
Good point.
This isn't Dunk on Sony episode.
Dunk on Sony.
It's, trust me, don't worry, I'll do a Dunk on Microsoft episode later. It's fine.
What about a slam dunk? sorry, keep going.
So, GT Sport, and I'll read it straight from the article so that there's no misinformation about what kind of microtransactions are in this racing game, because that's never happened before. All right, so for people's keeping score at home, 92% of the GT Sport roster will now be purchasable with real money. You can still earn all these cars in the game. There's no paywalling that. All these cars are earnable through gameplay and racing and everything else. So 218 cars are now available for real cash. Put another way, it's roughly 92% of the lineup. However, cars that cost less than 2 million in-game credits can be purchased directly through the PlayStation Store, but the high-end supercars and the super high-performance cars still have to be earned through grinding and playing the game. So basically, you can buy a majority of the base cars and some of the higher-end cars, but you can't buy the supercar and then just dust everybody, basically.
Yeah.
So there's no RNG BS. It's I want a Mercedes SLR. Buy the Mercedes SLR. Whatever. I don't have in this article, everything's in yen. So I can't give you a direct translation to American dollars on how much each car is, but I'm guessing it's like $1, maybe. They're reasonably priced because like 300 yen in American's like 99 cents, I think. I don't know exactly. It's cheap. They're not hosing anyone. They're not like, oh, if you want a Ford Mustang, it's $5. Or here, you can pick up a Porsche for $350.
300 yen is $2.70 US.
Okay, so it's probably $2.99 roughly.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so we were talking $3. The only reason I think this is a big deal is when GT Sport launched, there was the big drama behind loot boxes in Forza 7, which weren't buyable. There was a whole drama around that whole thing. And GT Sport came out and went, well, we don't have any microtransactions at all. And there will never be microtransactions in GT Sport. We'll never charge our players for anything. All the updates are free. All DLCs free. And then they're like, they sneak this update in and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, 92% of the cars are buyable with real money.
Bye-bye.
What? but you said this.
Yeah.
Polyphony out.
What the hell?
And look, I get why they're charging for the cars. It is no secret. Like GT Sport sold well, but as a Gran Turismo game,
it sold poorly in comparison to the previous ones.
Versus historical data for Gran Turismo. So they're trying to make some of that money back. I don't hold that against the developer. If a game underperforms, you have to figure out different ways of bringing people back in. They've also done what people seem to skip, because everyone just skipped right to outrage about microtransactions GT Sport.
Of course.
It sucks that they added them in when they promised they wouldn't. That sucks. They didn't add in loot boxes. They didn't add in RNG. They just went, hey, you can buy something you can earn in the game for $2.99.
Right.
That's fine. All the updates are still free. They're adding tracks. They're adding cars. All that stuff's still free. They're still giving you that quality of service. And they've done amazing things on improving the game. This should not be an issue.
Right. I mean, I'll give my take real quick on this. So I think it's one of those things where, okay, Polyphony, there's a lesson to be learned. Don't say something that you don't intend to live up to. Just it is what it is, okay? Yeah. Just let this be a lesson, cause moving forward. All right. That being said, it's really not that big a deal. I'm tolerant of microtransactions under certain circumstances if it's really necessary for the game to actually make money. Like Nick said, it's no secret this isn't selling well compared to previous Gran Turismo. It's still selling well, just not the gangbusters that the series used to. So it's like, if this is what they have to do, this is probably the most pro-consumer microtransactions could be. It's literally, hey, here's this car, here's how many credits it costs, or you can just buy it for X amount. That's what it is. Not a loot box, not RNG. It just is what it is. You don't ever have to buy it if you don't want to. And I think there's even an option in the UI that you can hide it. If you don't want to see it, you can actually hide seeing any of the purchase options there with real money. So it's like, it's not that big a deal. They need to learn not to put their foot in the mouth, move on.
So essentially, yeah.
I will add one thing though. Sorry, if you don't mind, Eric.
No, go ahead.
I will say, I'd be lying if I said there's not a certain amount of irony that the first people to say this is okay are the same ones who were bashing Forza 7, even though Forza's loot boxes, as much as I didn't like that system of progression, were never actually purchasable with real money. I will say as well, like, those people know who they are, but it is what it is. Anyways, that's my whole thing about it. I don't really care to say anything else.
Yeah, so basically what it came down to is a foot in the mouth scenario, but ultimately it was a social media tit for tat.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Pretty much.
And as Tommy pointed out in the chat, I don't play GT Sport personally. Sam brought this up as a topic because it was a gangbuster topic on Reset Era for a couple of days. As Tommy said in the chat on Reddit, apparently there is complaints because apparently to get some of the higher end cards that are still viable with Real Crash, there is quite a significant grind to it.
Okay. Have they adjusted the credit values though? Like, did it always cost as many regular non-real money credits as it does right now? I don't play GT Sports, so I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to.
As far as I know, they just added in a price for buying these cars, and they did no credit adjustments for the cars.
Okay. I mean, as long as they didn't adjust anything on the cars themselves, then again, I have no problem. As long as everything is the way it was before as well, I've got no issue with it. If that's the case, then I'd need some legit proof, and that could be an issue. But again, I don't play it, so I'm not going to jump to outrage.
Yeah,
unlike certain YouTubers.
Right. Outrage is fun.
Yeah.
But no, it kind of goes back to a general principle, like something like my mother always taught me, growing up, as I started dating, she said, never make promises on things that you don't intend to keep doing. Like if you say, I'm going to bring you flowers every day and you're dating, you continue to do that. Like you don't just stop. Right. So don't promise things that you don't necessarily know may change later. To be it. And I'm saying this as an example. Believe me, no one kill me. I'm just saying it would be like, say, like if Microsoft said with Game Pass, oh yeah, well we're no longer going to include, first party in Game Pass like a year or two from now, right?
Right, exactly. It's like come on. Now that's a way bigger issue, I think.
No, that would be
scale, but
scale.
But yes, but the point remains.
Right.
The point remains.
Yeah. So don't promise. Well, no, we're never going to have microtransactions because that sounds good. No, we're never going to do. No, never say never.
Exactly. And someone said this on Reset Era, and I'll point this out as well. He said the reason I'm not jumping into hating on them is because he said I have worked for a company where you are forced with no alternative to make a decision that goes against what you previously said, and I know how much that sucks.
Right.
I get it. It's like because there is. I don't know. I'm just conjecture here. It's very possible that they were like, look, we either do microtransactions to make up for the missed 1.5 million copies or whatever, or maybe some jobs get cut. Obviously, no one wants to have jobs cut.
Yeah.
So,
yep,
that's very true.
And that's just how it goes. If it's optional, non-invasive, the only one microtransaction, and I will complain about it and be outraged about it all the way until I'm dead in the ground, is the Battlefield shortcut system that they've got in place on all the Battlefield games, where you can hit level 100 or max level on all the classes by spending like $50, so you can unlock all the guns. I hate that. I hate loading the game up and being like, oh, that guy's a level 4, and he's got the best gun that takes 30 days of grinding to get.
Man, that drives me up the wall. That really does.
Or when Han Solo's blaster in Star Wars Battlefront was a deluxe edition purchase, and it just conveniently happens to be one of the best all-round blasters in the game. Like,
right.
Or when Earthfall tells you there's camouflages and earnable things in the game, but it's only earnable in the deluxe edition.
You know what? I will say that you have to pivot and change something. You better offer up something to make it go down smooth.
Yeah.
Hey, we know we're going to do this, but we have to do this. But for the trouble or for the inconvenience, we're going to give you X, Y, Z, whether it's credits, whether it's whatever. You better do something.
I think with a lot of developers, there's been an adjustment because a lot of people, I'm not sure if people will agree with me or disagree on me with this, but season passes are going the way of the dinosaur. Charging for DLC and subsectioning out your community into paid DLC packs is not working anymore. Activision's clutching to it. They're like, no, please, no.
Don't worry, the campaign for Black Ops 4 will come next year.
No, let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that Black Ops 4, if you buy the standalone game, you can't buy the seasons pass separately. You either have to buy the deluxe edition.
Oh yeah. Oh
yes. Yeah. Let's not talk about Activision.
Y'all want anti-consumer? There you go. Jeez Louise.
I could do a whole podcast on things Activision does.
Oh man.
Not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't do outrage content, but Activision boils my blood to no end. But I will say this, as Eric said, you should never say never when you're talking PR. I have a friend who works for I will not say a game studio, and he works in the PR department. And he said the biggest part of PR that people never you should never set your developers into a corner.
Right.
And whoever told those developers, they were like, look, tell them we're never going to do microtransactions. Developers are like, really? And the PR department's like, yeah, we're good, bro. Don't say that. And then 8 months later, the same PR guys walk up to that poor developer and going, yeah, by the way.
Oh, no.
I'm going to need you to make this sound positive.
Yeah, because it's like, because PR does that and spins it, and then the devs are the ones that get attacked over, and they're like,
yeah. We had no control over what they said, guys. Relax.
People always forget that how much play publishers play into that, how much PR plays into that, how much marketing teams play into that. The guy who's saying there, like, people get angry at the guy who's like, "Oh, this guy did the character animation. Let's get him." He has no influence on what goes on that aspect of the game. He's just sitting there making running shoes, and y'all get mad at him.
You guys want to go higher up the chain if you really want to get upset.
Yeah, and you know what? I will dunk on Activision any chance I get, but I have a very good friend of mine who worked for Activision for a few years, and they actually are one of the best video game industry employers. They pay almost the highest rate, and they have benefits and everything else. They treat their employees insanely well.
I would hope so. They make enough damn money.
That's the flip
Jeez,
side.
they don't even make any games. All they have to do is rely on World of Warcraft subscriptions and microtransactions and purchases in that damn game.
Yeah, like Activision, when Activision bought Blizzard, that was just like, okay, so you guys just make money hand over fist for the rest of your lives now. Yeah,
They could do this for the rest of their lives and not run out. All be $1,000 bills and
yep,
don't run out.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Well, financials came out, and I think Blizzard by itself made $468 million this quarter. They haven't even released anything. That's just on their games that have been out forever. They're just like, oh, cool, we made a bunch of money.
A lot of money,
Anything.
man.
It's like what drives me nuts with Take-Two. When they're like, oh, look at GTA 5. Look how much money that's making. We'll never have to make a game again.
Oh,
Anyways.
or being Take-Two is the only ones who could get away with the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2 is now less than 85 days away, and they have yet to release gameplay for it.
It doesn't
Right.
matter.
Could anyone else get away with that?
Nope.
No.
I will 100% say I have not pre-ordered Red Dead Redemption 2 because I want to see gameplay first. I know it's going to be amazing because it's Rockstar's pedigree. Like, Rockstar to me has never released a bad game.
Manhunt. Was it Manhunt?
You
No,
shut your mouth. That was an amazing.
no, not Manhunt. It wasn't Manhunt. State of Emergency.
Yes.
Was that the
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
People
I
were like,
remember.
ew. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. There was one. And I will stand on my soapbox with Rockstar and be like, where's my Bully? Where's my LA Noir? Like, I miss
It's on
Rockstar.
Switch. And it's remastered. There's your LA Noir.
Oh, shoot.
You can do it now.
Skipping past Eric now. I hate how Rockstar's become, because last gen it felt like every year they were putting out a new game and they were trying different things. Like, you look at LA Noir and you look at that game, there's never been a game like that after that, and there was never a game like that before that.
I still haven't played it, and I need to, because what they did in that game was pretty impressive, considering how you had to watch their facial expressions to figure the investigation out, and then their in their investigations and stuff. Like, that was really appealing, especially considering I grew up in a police with my father as a police officer. I was like, damn, I kind of be one myself, but I can also be an old school gangster at the same time. Ooh.
Yeah, that game with the facial animations and everything
It was crazy.
It was crazy the level of detail that game had. We're going to wrap up. Dan has a question in the chat. I'm trying to be more interactive with the chat. People, be patient with me. I can barely talk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Nonetheless, look at the chat, talk to these guys, do these great facial and arm expressions you guys all love. Someone pointed out to me, they tweeted at me last week. They're like, do you never sit still in the podcast? I'm like, what do you mean? I watched the last podcast back. I sat there and I was watching myself. I was just doing this the whole podcast. just rotating.
If it keeps you entertained, might as well.
Never realized it. So Dan's question was, how viable would it be for publishers to make games free or at a reduced price and rely solely on microtransactions? In example, Fortnite.
Not very viable at all. Fortnite is lightning in a bottle for a variety of reasons. Free-to-play games work, but have you ever noticed that all free-to-play games follow very, very similar patterns of bright, colorful, appeals to children, appeals to a younger demographic, and predatory cosmetics that are well overpriced, but they hide all the cool stuff that way. Like, oh, you're going to look dumb compared to your friends if you don't do this. It's the same formula for all that stuff. I'm not saying games couldn't do it. Not at all. And there definitely needs to be experimentation with pricing formulas, as we've talked about before. I'm glad some devs are picking up on the fact that not everything needs to be a $60 game. Game Pass adds some fluctuation in there as well. But going free to play and then adding, microtransactions to try and make up for it is actually a very risky endeavor. Extremely risky.
It is, but there's one game comes to mind where it's almost an exception to the rule, and I think they've really been very good towards the community in the way they have done their game as a free to play, and that's Warframe. Warframe has been pretty impressive for what they've done, but I will say from when it originally came out, it wasn't worth investing any money with at all. But what it is now, holy crap! Like, it's a free to play game, and if you're really, really willing to invest money into it, and you truly feel like you're gonna invest hundreds of hours of time into it, you know what? It's your money. Feel free to drop $60 or whatever the hell you want on it, because in the end, no one's going to stop you unless it's you yourself controlling your own spending for the microtransactions.
Look, I will openly say free-to-play games, everyone knows I play Smite religiously on console. And I've played it for about 3 years now. I've probably bought in excess of around $2,500 to $3,000 worth of skins in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what's happening with Fortnite, too.
And it's stupid because I always used to tell myself, I'm not going to buy that skin. Then they'd come out with, like, a Scorpion skin. And, like, okay, basically the skins are like $10 a pop. They come out with a super cool one. They had one where it was a Bob Ross skin, and he was
yes, I'd buy it just for that.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. And that was a $30 skin, but everybody bought it. Because, so to wrap this up and give you an idea, it works for some models. Does anyone want to take a stab at how much League of Legends made their maximum year-over-year profit was at their highest peak?
Oh,
About 350.
Oh, damn it, Lock them master. Told you.
So their highest point was Riot hit the headlines in 2014 as they were 36 million shy of hitting $1 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Last year alone, and this is with League dropping off significantly since it launched. Like, it still doesn't say numbers, don't get me wrong. But Riot Games only earned $624 million last year. $624 million on a free-to-play game.
Wow.
That's still pretty damn good.
Again, because all those skins that you cannot earn, but they look way cooler than anything else in the game that you can earn regularly. That's how you do it.
Epic has made so much money from Fortnite that when they launched Fortnite Mobile fully, they didn't even need to use the Google Play Store. They're like,
yeah, there's actually a big controversy right now. I really don't want to derail us, but there's a big controversy going on there. It's pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, and that's just the way it is. There's some games will succeed, some games won't, and like we've seen it. Like, anyone remember way back in 2014 when Sea of Thieves was supposed to be an MMO free to play? Anyone?
I do not ever remember the words free to play being used. Never.
Legitimately, hold on. Sea of Thieves free to play.
You have my attention.
Oh God! Now all that. Yeah, back in 2016, Sea of Thieves is not free to play. We did a lot of thinking around the business model and decided to change our original idea. Originally, it was supposed to be a free-to-play game.
Okay, all right. But so what I'm saying, though, is they never announced that it was going to be free to play and then went back on that, is the point I was making. I know internally there were discussions.
Yeah, internally, everyone assumed it was going to be a free-to-play game because of the style and the direction they were going with it. But they decided that there was going to... Because originally it went from being a free-to-play game, that was going to be a $30 game, and then it became a full-price game. And that's why some people were, like, mega outraged about that, because a lot of people were under the assumption it was supposed to be a free-to-play game.
Yeah, that's something I never actually even knew.
It was the same thing. That's why Cliff Bleszinski and their studio got so much backlash with Lawbreakers, because Lawbreakers was supposed to be free to play originally as well.
Now that was publicly announced as free to play.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah, because about 6 months before it launched, they went, yeah, by the way, $30.
Just so you guys know.
But we all know how that ended. Cliffy living his best life now.
Don't.
That man is living the life of my dreams anyway.
Nope. Hey, you know what? Good on him. Yeah. After all that happened, I would be doing the same thing.
I wish I could fail at a business and then still be able to have a boat full of strippers.
Yeah, and fire on your private jet and ask, put certain specific polls on Twitter about what you should do.
Oh, God. Okay, we're not touching that. This is the end of the episode. This is going south way too quickly.
Bye, guys.
All right. So that's going to wrap up the Gaming Perspective Podcast, episode 18. I want to really thank everyone that stopped by. The chat was great tonight. You guys had some great feedback. And remember, if you guys have any suggestions or people you want to see on the show, if you watch this show consistently and there's guests you think that we should have on, hit me up on Twitter. I'm always open to suggestions and people that you want to see on here. I will be bringing back on my one-on-one series on the channel later in the next couple of weeks. I've got to line up a guest, which takes me forever because I procrastinate. But we have a really cool episode planned for next week. I'm not going to announce it yet till I get firm confirmation on the guest. So keep an eye out for that on Monday. We'll do outros now. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert. Please follow me if you want to talk about movies, games, TV shows, tech, stuff like that. And you can find what I write on tickgamesnetwork.com. Reviews, news, opinion pieces, just game dives, stuff like that. Right on. Yeah, Sam does fantastic work. Jared, where can people find you?
Well, they can also find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or as well at tickgamesnetwork.com for news and opinion pieces as well.
Awesome. And Eric?
Yep, you can also find me on Twitter at ECJackson with an X, and also Wednesday night at 9 o'clock on the Brat Podcast, Basement Radio Arcade.
Awesome. So, as always, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the show. It's been super appreciated, the support and everything else. And once again, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a fantastic Saturday night, and we will see you guys next week with a super great topic. So have yourselves a fantastic Saturday and enjoy your long weekend if you're Canadian. Ha ha.